Hello there, good people of the internet. It's the Baron with another episode of Bits and Pieces, with another bit of a themed episode this time. I've been having a bit of a tour of the area of late, and I've picked up a few odds and sods from English heritage. I've been visiting a couple of their locations of late, and I decided to, well, what I do really, review things. What you'll see in some historical places like that is they will obviously sell lots of merchandise in their shops that you both have to enter and leave by in order to gain access to the premises. Usually it's books, sometimes you'll see toy swords, toy longbows and stuff like that. Occasionally very cheap little armament for kids to dress up in, stuff along those lines. Sometimes the weapons are foam, sometimes they're wood, and rather flimsy wood that would probably break if they decide to try to actually hit each other or even try to use it, I don't know, sword against sword for example. And the longbows in question basically all have rubber tips at the end so that they would just basically suck onto something. They're the suckers. Yes, the suckers rather than the tips. Why did I say tips when I meant suckers? Oh, who knows, who cares. But without any further ado, let's show you the first thing I picked up. A Roman soldier of some sort. I'm not entirely certain if there's centurions or legionnaires or something else along those lines. But looking at the fellow, it's quite a nice, solid sculpt. You'll see that they've put little bits of plastic in between his legs for some reason. I've left all the usual stuff on. Oh look, it's that symbol again. Presumably made in France. There's no posability here other than that I can adjust the shield ever so slightly. If you look there, you can see it can't actually be removed. If I move my thumb out the way, that's probably better. So that's in place there. The helmet is actually part of the sculpt, so that's not going anywhere. The sword, in theory, could be removed. Certain enough give. I'll just move that over there like that. But you're more likely to actually break it. You can, of course, just simply reposition the blade so that it can be various different things, a slashing action, a blocking action, anything you want really. Does it stand up without that? Yes, it does. So, I don't know why they put that there, maybe it's some sort of security thing, who knows. But we'll just put him over there. Now they only had two figures. I've been in two different Roman places today. One was to do with Hadrian's Wall, and the other wasn't. It was just a different fort altogether. But in both cases they had exactly the same stuff, for the most part, and then some variations. But as far as the figures are concerned, this is the other figure. A gladiator of some sort, I assume. Not quite sure why, but they put plastic covering the same sort of thing here. And then over the sword arm, well, I'm sure there's probably a different name there, that's more like a dagger hand thing. They put this plastic cover on. It's not like that's actually, well, it's a little sharp. You could actually maybe puncture skin, not particularly well of course, but there you go. 2 stabs, that's it. I'm pricked but not bled. But it's rubber, so it's just going to bend quite easily, so you're probably not really going to have much danger there. Although if somebody did decide to stab somebody in the eye with it quite viciously, it would probably work. Rawr, rawr, rawr. The buckler here, that moves around quite a bit. It's got a little bit on the bottom here. It's probably prevented from being moved too much and being taken off, but that goes with it because you could probably pose him so that you can be defending against one thing and counter-attacking with the blade. Again, no posability. They're both very solid sculpts. You're not going to break these easily. In both cases, the colouring is quite nice. Attention to detail is quite good. See the leather bit of the strap here, the bucklers and everything. Not perfectly uniformly on it's gotten loose slightly, just as a real belt would. And the paint jobs on both of them are quite good as well. They look like what they're supposed to be. His nipples are actually where his nipples are. Not quite sure about his underwear. Nappies, diapers. I suppose it's easier if you soil yourself, I suppose. A quick change. He's not quite so steady on his feet, so maybe that's why he's came with the guard. This fellow again, same sort of thing. Excellent attention to detail in all cases. This is not a cheaply made piece by any stretch of the imagination. Everything is quite nicely painted. The eyes are on as they are supposed to be. The paint jobs are superb. There's a little bit of an error here, but you could say that's probably just supposed to be wear and tear. If you look at this badge of honour, I suppose, on here, you can see just a little bit of the paint that's supposed to be in the strap is on the metalwork, and that leaves the actual paint job there just a little unfinished. But then again, one small error among such a well detailed, well made piece, I am not going to complain. If anything, it adds just a little bit to it, as it ends up looking just a little bit more worn. One thing I did like, and which I was somewhat surprised to find out what it actually was once I picked it up, was this. I thought it was just a statue. It definitely feels like a statue. There's no movability whatsoever. It's quite a nice looking sculpt in all regards. Okay. Sword, the cloak, everything around it is quite nice. You can't see the line, of course. And the helmet is obviously on top, holding it all together and then presumably glued in. But everything looks quite nice. And then you get to the bottom. It's a pencil sharpener. That doubles as a statue. So if you're a Roman fan, then this is actually quite an interesting piece. You can have this on display with your collection. Nobody will notice the difference, and if you, for whatever reason, need to sharpen a pencil, you can grab this quite quickly. You'll never want for a pencil sharpener again, I suppose. Unless, of course, you lose this like you lose every other pencil sharpener you've ever had. Just like I have. But does it work? One pencil, you'll notice that it is indeed nibless. Which sounds potentially painful and wrong in some regards, but never mind. Ignore that buzzing alarm that you've just heard, or ringing alarm. That's of no importance. Well, the pencils came across quite nicely. Although this particular brand of pencil is one I do for rough sketches and so on. I might upload some of those sketches at some point myself, you never know, but they do tend to have a bit of a trouble. The wood never really seems to be uncovered properly by any sharpener. This sharpener, however, has done the best job I've seen in quite a while. So there you go. I'll put the statue through a combination pencil sharpener down. And there were two other things that I saw that I decided to grab. Gladiator Pieces. We have the Secutor, the Retiarius, the Thracian, and the Summonite. I'll just move this a little bit so that the lights aren't cancelling that all out. Those are my best guesses at how you actually pronounce these particular titles. I have no idea if they're right or not. But you can see in the background there's a bit of additional information there. Of course, if you do take it out of its packaging and then try to look at this, as there's nothing to actually line them up if you lose track of which one's which, if you've had them out loose. Yes, well, you can see where that's going. If you take them out of the packaging, get them mixed up and then try to put them back, you've got no real guide, unless of course you've memorised that each one is which. Otherwise it's just sort of buggered. But there you go. So this is the secutor. Camera doesn't seem to want to focus, so I'll just move it in closer anyhow. Oh, there you go, it's finally focused. Kind of reminds me of that airbike cop from the Star Trek reboot. What is your name? Who is James Tiberius Kirk? How obnoxious you are that you actually give your full middle name as well. This is the unfortunately named Victorious. The camera isn't wanting to focus on him at the moment for some reason. Let's see what we can do. Not much, I'm afraid. Autofocus is taking forever and a day, but there you are. It's obviously a variation of this fella. With the protective armour on one side, and everything else bare-chested. And some sort of animal, I think. Can't really tell what that is, but that's definitely some sort of trident he's holding. Maybe he's just gotten lucky, maybe he's got something else altogether. There's nothing on any of the packaging to suggest that it's a carryover. Maybe it's something else altogether. Maybe it's like this fellow here has. Maybe what it is what appears to be a cloak. I have seen some defensive manuals showing that things like cloaks and clothing and so on could be used as defensive weapons. You'd use them to distract your opponent, okay, wrap around their wrists and use them to pull and grapple and so on. It's possible. I also think I've seen that in Steven Seagal movies, but never mind. Less about Steven Seagal the better. But here we have this fellow, who has a variation on the same helmet this fellow has, an actual sword, a curved sword, and then he's protecting his chest with a shield. But likewise he's got armour just on one arm. I've always wondered about that. Surely it's best to have both arms armoured so that you have less chance of being injured. And then we have the Samnite. Yes, I know, I'm just obsessed with not getting them mixed up now that they're out their packaging. Mr. Samnite seems to have a shield based on the ones the Legionnaires use. He's got a similar short, bladed weapon to this fellow, but it's just not curved. And he seems to have a winged helmet with one of those central bits that kind of looks like a mohawk, but isn't. If you know what that's actually called, put the comments in the below and we'll take it from there, I suppose. And then one final piece, and I do mean final piece because this was literally the last thing I bought. Roman Britain. You won't be able to see it from there, I'm sure, but this is just basically more pieces along the same lines as that. They're slightly taller pieces, but it's actually for a game. Roman Britain, figures and game board. Themes available in this range include Egyptian, Celtic, Viking, Roman, Anglo-Saxon, Norman, Medieval Knight, Tudor, English Civil War, Victorian life, Britain at war, ocean life, seaside, and more. Contact your local stockish for details, assuming you know who your local stockish is. Handcrafted in lead-free pewter, and of course the infamous symbol. Apparently it's made in Britain as well. That's quite good, and you can see the price, £5.99. Given what they're made of and that it's supposed to be a game that's possibly overpriced, but couldn't really say myself, because I've not actually even gave this thing a try yet. It's still nicely secured. Oh, that pops open easily enough. The great problem, of course, with doing this kind of video and doing packaging and everything is, of course, keeping it in frame so that you can see what's going on. oh, the bottom comes out, and they fall out quite nicely. So let's see here. So that folds out all together. It gives you the rules, or at least a little bit of information on the Romans, just in case you don't know who they are. And it's a game for 2 players. And it gives you what looks like a chessboard. And more pieces along the same lines as before. Now, I've actually seen similar characters along these lines before in the past. I actually had quite a collection going when I was a child. I'll have to go looking for them at some point and maybe do a little bit of a review on that sometime. But overall, quite nice pieces. They all solid. Just do a little comparison side by side. As I said before, they're just ever so slightly taller. This looks like a goddess, so maybe that's why she's taller. You can feel not quite so intimidated because she's a goddess. But I think I'll leave it at that for the time being, because that's quite a lot of information. Toodle pip.